Welcome to episode 120. My name is Rachel. This is Woolen Spinning, and I am your host. This is a podcast devoted to all things spinning, and I hope that you find some knowledge here. We have the live stream twice a month, and our Patreon community participates in that. You guys are the ones that keep the show on the air month after month, and I want to send a special thank you out to you. If you're new to this place, welcome. I hope that you enjoy what you see, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your ongoing support by just watching the show, liking it, subscribing to the channel. That means a lot to me. For those who are sort of aware of what's going on in the community, I just have some brief announcements for those who maybe are catching up or just tuning in for the first time. Katrina and I recently released our first book, Unbraided. It is available in the links down below to the show notes. So those are available at patreon.com/wellforpearls or at wellforpearls.com or at craftyjacks, JAKS.ca. The links and everything are all down below. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about spinning color, this might be the book for you. So a little plug there for that. I would like to just a quick shout out to the Patreon community. We this month, next month in August, are celebrating our 3-month anniversary. We actually just passed it. The 3-month anniversary, the 3-year anniversary for Patreon, not for the podcast, but for Patreon, was actually on June 12th. That was last Wednesday. It was a week ago. We are recording this today on June 19th. And it was actually on my husband's birthday, and him and I'd been thinking about it for a really long time, and then we were going to Whistler that weekend, and I thought, you know what, if this does not go well and it just implodes in my face right away, we'll be in Whistler celebrating our birthdays and spending time with my family, and maybe it won't feel as bad. That was 3 years ago. So we're here now, and I wanted to spend the next couple of months celebrating and being in a place of joy around what this community has become. You guys are just amazing human beings. And to celebrate, starting this month, there's a post with all of the dates and times, and it is linked below. This is for our patron community. We are going to be starting our Maker Mornings to celebrate our 3-year anniversary. So I hope that you can join us. The first one will be this weekend. So if you are free, please check the post, check the times. It will be very much the same as what our live streams are like, except that I'll be actually doing something while I'm talking with you, and we'll just kind of have the chat going, and you guys can ask questions, and we can chat about stuff, and be about an hour. So come with your questions, come with your ideas, and I hope that you're able to participate. We have kind of a full show today. I wanted to share a new spindling project that I literally just started. I have some wheel demoing that we're going to do today. You can see I've got both of my spinning wheels in the background here. I've got my Lendrum DT right here, and my Magicraft Suzy Pro is behind there. And that will take us through the show. So I have a little bit of breed and color studies to start off with. Hi, Eve. Good to see you. And we've got Julia here. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. You guys have no idea after the week that we have just had how much it means to me that you guys are here. So thank you. Mike and I celebrated birthdays last week. We both turned 1 year older according to the calendar. So mine was on Friday. His was on Wednesday last week. Nora finished preschool, so she's officially a preschool grad. And James has finished school tomorrow, and then we'll be off for the summer break. So there are some schedule changes for the next month. Normally in August, I take the month off from podcasting. It's just a chance for me to recoup and just come back refreshed and ready for the fall, and we usually go away. And this year we actually moved all of our stuff, and we're going to be away in July instead. So there will be no show at the beginning of July. We will skip that show. We do this twice a year, once in the summer and once in December, when we skip one show, just so that I can have a chance to refresh and recoup and all that kind of stuff. So the show in July will be towards the end of the month, but that's okay because we have a maker morning to do as well. So when we get back from our camping trip, we're going up north. We will have the maker morning stream to do. We will also have a podcast episode, and then in August this year, we will be back to regular scheduled programming. There will be some changes in September around the times of the live stream because both of the kids will be in school at the same place at the same time. So big changes coming, but this live stream will still be weekdays, and I'm just trying to figure out some times. If anybody if you're on the other side of the world, if you could let me know what times might work roughly, it just helps to inform sort of when a good time to stream is. And my hope is that we'll have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So one of the shows per month will be in the morning and one of the shows per month will be in the afternoon, just so that people who can't necessarily come at a certain time would then have an option to come to the other one. Unfortunately, I work weekends, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. I don't work every weekend, but our maker mornings will always be on the weekends. So I want to keep the live stream and the regular podcast on the weekdays. I hope you guys can understand that. Kind of like a work week, right? So if you guys have any stuff throughout, I'm gonna try to keep up with the live chat as much as I can. You guys tend to be extremely chatty, and I so appreciate that. But as I'm moving stuff around and moving cameras around, if I miss anything and you guys want me to answer a question or whatever, just post it again or ask me to scroll back. Okay, in terms of works in progress, let's get into that first. One of my works in progress that I have going right now is actually not hand spun. It has nothing to do with spinning, although it has a lot to do with sort of homespun yarn and what mill spun farm to yarn sort of looks like. And it's over there in the corner. It's the throwback cardigan. It's a design by Andrea Mowry. You can't really see the colors too clearly just because it's back there in the corner. But Katrina dyed the yarn for me, and Lynn of West Coast Color, I don't think I have one of her business cards right nearby. I just shipped out one of her, one of the fiber presents, gifts, prizes that were part of last month's giveaway. So it's gone. But it's her yarn, and we're going to be talking about that on the podcast at the end of July, and I'll be doing a full review of the yarn, and I'm really enjoying working with it. It's been a place of solace over the last week to be able to pull that out. I started it on Mike's birthday a week ago today, and that's how far I am already. I've already divided for the sleeves, and I'm halfway down the body, so it's going really, really quickly. And I have to admit, on 5mm needles, I'm actually surprised how quickly it's going. It's worsted weight yarn, but it's still like 200 stitches around, and it's like just going so fast. So I will share that with you. I'm going to finish it while we're away on our trip, and I will share it with you at the end of July and do a full review of the yarn, and probably talk a little bit about the pattern because I made a couple of changes. Now, recently, we have been, it's super fast, Kelly, so fast. Oh, and you guys mentioned in the chat, you were saying your afternoon is our evening in Europe. So this is for those people who are in mainland Europe. I probably won't be streaming much past this podcast ending at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's not too late for you guys, Eve, because I have to get the kids. So I can't really go much further past that. So this is my spindling project that I have been carrying around. This is a spindle that I picked up in Toronto at the Purple Pearl, which is a shop on Queen Street. For those who know Toronto, it's a great little shop. And I started working on this one day out in the cul-de-sac because we were all standing around and we were visiting and whatnot. And I just didn't have anything. Like, I was kind of like between projects in terms of what I had to work on. And this is Superwash Merino. It's called, the colorway was called Character Study. I think it was Leah that did this, that designed this colorway. And what I was going to say about the spindle, because I picked it up at the Purple Pearl, it's a David Smith Hound design. It's one of his lace spindles that he did. And for those who've been around in the spindle spinning world for a while, will probably know the Hound design spindles. And Dave is no longer making spindles because he has some health complications and health issues. But I do quite treasure this spindle. The only thing, and I was hoping my dad could help me to fix this, but I'm gonna ask Eric instead. If you look, I'll try and line it up just absolutely perfectly. Do you see how the hook coming out the top is at an angle? It's going that way slightly. So you look at the top of the spindle and it's perfectly perpendicular and 90 degrees. And then the hook itself is slanted off to the side. It's slanting that way. So the spindle wobbles. And all it needs is a mallet to bring it back to like straight up and down. But it wobbles just enough that it's a little bit annoying. It's not the end of the world, but it doesn't, you see how it wobbles? It doesn't, it should spin a lot faster and it should spin a lot more steadily, and it kind of, but I really wanted to work with this spindle. I haven't used it for years, and I love the colors of it. I have written down somewhere, it's got dust on it. Isn't that terrible? I hate it when my spindles get dust on it, and I haven't been using my spindles the last year or so. It's just been a bit too, life's been a bit too crazy. But it's funny because when James started kindergarten, we just didn't spend as much time outside just hanging out at the park. And so I found my spindle spinning really took a nosedive. And over the last couple of months, I found myself really craving that simplicity and really craving that getting back to that sort of, yeah, just that simplicity. Like, I was cleaning up today and I found one of my Turtle Maids. These are 3D printed Turtle Maid spindles. They're Turkish spindles. And I just thought, you know, I need to rectify this spindle spinning situation. So anyhow, I'm going to get Eric to fix it for me. And this is the fiber. So I've just been stripping it down. This is the colorway. And I've just been pre-drafting. My friend Diana last night at Guild, she was walking around with her Hound design. Or it might have actually been one of Kelsey's dad's spindles, because he's been making spindles too. And I was sort of thinking, she was just spinning these gorgeous little Rolex, and I just thought, yeah, I need to get back on my spindles, find some simplicity. So that's the color. They're not my colors at all, but I think it's sort of okay because it's got that gray in there, so it's sort of like acceptable. These aren't colors that I wear. They aren't they're not great on me. And please don't say that they are, because they're not my best colors. And that's okay. But I think what I'll do is sort of spin this up, just do a 2-ply center pull ball, and because I'm just going to spin it whatever I can get onto here, and I'll just ply it up, and it's just a nice mindless spin. So that's something that I've been working on. No, nothing exciting, Suzanne. She said, sorry I'm late. Did I miss anything exciting? No, not really. Oh my goodness, Megan, you are so funny. So Megan responds to her, Rachel spun while riding a bunking bronco, but nothing else exciting. Just kidding. You guys are hilarious. What else do I have to share with you? I have this, and then we're going to get into breeding color studies. So this is June's Fiber Club from Crafty Jacks. This is Katrina. Everybody in our community knows Katrina. This is 12% Tussa Silk, 16% mohair, and 72% Welsh Mountain. The Welsh was quite kempy this month, and as you can see, it's not done. So we are going to come back to this later in the show. And on the second podcast of the month, generally the Fiber Club for Crafty Jacks is done and it's fun, and I share with you my reflections. But this month it's not done. So I saved it for you, and we will come back to that at the end of the show. My brother gave me for my birthday We don't normally do gifts and stuff, but my brother gave me this for my birthday. It's a pine cone. Isn't that cool? Anyways, I've been wearing it. I really, really love it. Got it from a little maker, an artisan in Victoria, British Columbia. So I will, I'll see if I can try to link to her website down below in the show notes. Yeah. All right, let's do breed and color studies. I'm going to switch the cameras around. Okay. This yarn, I'm obsessed with this project. All right, this is from Bridget Flynn, and I think I accidentally put that it was Talbot fiber, but Ava is for something else. So let me just change it around so that it's correct. I don't like to not give credit where credit is due. This is Bridget Flynn. That's her Ravelry username. And let me just, there we go. I love this new OBS. It's just wonderful. All right, so yeah, Victoria is amazing. My brother and sister-in-law moved over there about 5 years ago, and my sister-in-law had gone to school at UVic, and she works for UVic now. And my brother had always wanted to live there, and we had almost moved to the island as a family several times as we were growing up, and we never did. And when they had the opportunity to go, they decided to jump on it. So now there's a 2-hour ferry in between us, but I know they really love their life over there. So they have talked about moving back to the mainland, but at this point they've decided to stay. So all right, yeah, my friend Corey is obsessed with pine cones. She's a florist, and she puts pine cones into like everything that she can. And so over the last couple of months, it's funny that my brother would give me this because pine cones keep coming into everything. It's really strange. Anyhow, it's weird how certain things sort of themes and whatnot, like for a while I felt like it was owls were everywhere, and then for a while there it was like squirrels and fauna and like that kind of stuff, and now it's sort of moved into like pine cones. And anyhow, it's really cool. Okay. Well, I didn't know you lived in Victoria, Kelly. That's awesome. Oh, it's so, okay. So my husband likes to bring pine cones back from wherever he goes in the world. So we have a collection or display. It's funny because we have a bowl on our dining room table. If I remember, I'll take a picture of it. I'll post it in the Slack channel of all of the pine cones that me and the kids over the years have collected. And sometimes there's like little bugs that come out of them, but I don't care. And of course, when we had the dogs would just take care of it. But now I have to be a bit more aware. But that's really cool. It's really throwing me off every time your name comes up and it's Thornton, because that's my dad's name and it's so uncommon. Things happen for a reason though, because we've been praying for my dad this past week. If you guys as a community could pray for my dad, that would be amazing. But it's just so funny that your name would come up and be the same. All right. I'm going to read what Bridget wrote because I'm just going to keep talking to you guys because I love talking to chat. You guys are so amazing. First project weaving exclusively with hand spun. So it's amazing. So the middle skeins in that photo that was just going through with the turquoise wrapped around them, those balls that were in the middle, those center pull balls, those are the breed and color studies that we're working on right now. And if you're wondering more about breed and color studies, go back to a couple, some slightly older episodes like 112, 114. Or you can look at the links below and go click over to the website and Patreon and stuff, and you'll learn a little bit more about breed and color studies. There's also a devoted thread on Ravelry, and if you read the very first post, that had all of the information there. First project weaving exclusively with hand spun. That's amazing. I wove a quote unquote dented shawl based on a shawl I had found on Ravelry. I think the correct name of the pattern is crammed and spaced. I've heard it called cram and dent as well. I don't know what the right lingo is. I wish Erica was here today, but she's not. Anyhow, my intention was to show the subtle difference between the two shades of the Dorset horn. So we had a set of roll eggs that were blended with white, and then we had a set of roll eggs blended with black. So you can see those subtle differences, but the skeins are also still very, very similar. So she wanted to show the subtle differences between the two shades of the Dorset horn and to use a pattern that would allow her to weave a shawl with a limited amount of yarn. I think that's just amazing. I used the lighter yarn as the warp and the darker as the I think she means as the weft. I had to include a little of the Polworth in both the warp and weft in order to have enough yarn for the size that I wanted. You know, I think actually in a lot of ways, because you can see in the striping, you can see the Polworth going through that turquoisey green. I think it actually makes the shawl more interesting. I think we had a talk last night at Guild, and the presentation was on color and weave. And Kelsey talked about, you know, using those complementary and split complementary colors to sort of make things a bit more interesting and to create that dynamic and that play in our fabrics. And this is one of those situations where I think you knocked it out of the park. Caveat, these are also my favorite colors. So you could have pretty much done anything and I would have loved it, because I think this really, really works. That seafoamy, tealy, bluey, green turquoise just works beautifully with those corally brown, warm pink. Just, oh, it works so, so well, Bridget. Well done. I wove this on my Sayori loom because I can use a loose tension, and since I was weaving with singles, I was afraid a stronger tension would snap the threads. So she used singles for warp and weft, and you can see how in parts of this, in some of the close-ups, you can see how some of the singles are still a bit active, and I just love that because to me, I think it looks more interesting. She's got some gorgeous texturing going on here. There's some places where, you know, it's just the warp yarn that's featured, and then there's places where just the weft yarn is featured. I just love this. I love this shawl. I think it's amazing. So well done, Bridget, and thank you so much for sharing. So we're only going to do one Breed and Color study today because I really wanted to feature this one. I thought Bridget deserved a bit of the spotlight for this. So thank you so much for posting your photos and for doing that. All right, in Ask Anything today, we are going to talk. I just want to pause really quickly and say thank you for those who are saying that sending love to our family. We really, really need it. I can't go into it because I will start bawling, but we really need some love and support right now, and you guys are just an amazing community, so thank you. We're going to go into Ask Anything, and I'm going to read what Ava wrote, and then we're going to do some changes in here around like the furniture. So you guys here for the live stream are going to sort of see the behind the scenes a little bit as I move cameras around. And so I'll edit it out for the show because it's just a bit messy, but I hope that you guys enjoy sort of a little bit of a different format this week. And it's probably a little bit reminiscent of sort of a bit of a foreshadowing around what the Maker Mornings will be like a little bit. So I thought now is a great chance for me to sort of practice, if you will, and then we can go from there. So I'm going to read what Ava wrote, and this was in the Ask Anything thread in the Ravelry group, and her username is Talbot Fiber, and it was from post 1527. Oh my goodness. I saw that and I just was like, how are we at that many Ask Anything posts? And it's funny because you look at some of the other threads and we're way up there in terms of chatter in some of the different threads. So I just thank you to all of you who offer support, and people post questions and you answer, and it's just amazing. Hello, Fiber Peeps. I have a question about spinning wheels. I have a Cassandra wheel made by John Sherman, I think. Love the wheel. However, I'm ready to spin fingering and lace weight yarns. My wheel does not have a high enough ratio for the fine yarns, and I thought it would work, but I am just not happy with the results. One of the things I love about this wheel is the 4-ounce bobbins. They are great for playing. That being said, my question is, which wheels would you recommend for making lace and fingering weight yarns? Can you get 3D printed bobbins for the wheel? And any feedback that you have to offer would be greatly appreciated. Spin happy, Ava. All right, I have a few comments to make first and foremost, and then we're gonna look at some wheel stuff. So you can spin any weight of yarn on any wheel with practice and patience. Oh no. She went to get something under the fridge. I could hear her, and then I thought, oh, I bet you the tablet is going to time out. I told her she could watch a movie while we're doing this, and she never gets to watch a movie during the afternoon when I'm home. So I was like, oh, I bet you she's going to come in here wanting the password. So very shy. I'll tell her that you guys all said hello. Okay, so you can spin any weight of yarn on any wheel, on any spindle with practice and patience, regardless of the ratio. So I just want to put that out there. And if you look at some of the really experienced spinners out there, like on Instagram and Ravelry, Facebook, they're spinning on 32-ounce bobbins and they're spinning ultra-fine singles and having really good results. They fill these massive bobbins so that they can spin an entire sweater spin to one bobbin. It's unbelievable. I think the exception is probably textured yarns, only because if you don't have a big enough orifice in your flyer, so the orifice is this thing that goes at the front of your wheel, if that's not big enough and your guides along the side of your flyer aren't big enough, you can't get textured yarns through them. The thing about spinning finer is that when you have lower ratios and you're dealing with ratios that are like 4-to-1, 6-to-1, your flyer is only going to be turning 6 times, for example, to one drive wheel revolution, and it just takes more time. You sometimes get a bit of wobble in your flyer or in your wheel if you have a castle style wheel. These are both castle style wheels where you have the mechanism, the maiden is all at the top of the drive wheel. Traditional or Elizabethan wheels or have the mechanism off to the side of the drive wheel, so you tend to be able to spin a lot faster and not have that shake. But to get that added speed in your flyer, to get that twist into your finer yarns, you tend to have to treadle a bit faster, and it takes more time. It just is physically more exhausting. And if anybody listened to one of the, I think it was part 2, might have been part 1 of the conversation that I had with Kai and Becca on Woolen Spinning Radio, and I'll try to remember to link that down below. If I forget, it's just because my mind is elsewhere right now. So if I don't remember, please remind me. I don't mind, and I'll post it. But Kai had this project going on his matchless, and of course the matchless comes in a lot of different ratios and you can get different whirls for that wheel. And then he went back to his Ashford Kiwi, for example, that sort of touted and marketed as a beginner wheel, quote unquote, and it has much lower ratios, and it doesn't have the higher ratios that the matchless has. And he's sort of jokingly said on the Woolen Spinning Radio, he's like, oh, it was so much work. Yeah. And me and Becca understood what he was saying, and of course we laughed along with him, because it's a lot more work. You have to treadle a lot more to get that twist into your yarns. Some of these wheels that are out there on the market, I suspect the Cassandra is one of them. I think of the Ashford Country Spinner is another one. They're just not wheels that are great for spinning a lot of yardage where you're spinning finer singles. You have to treadle a lot more, and you have to plan ahead in terms of recognizing that you're going to get a lot of wobble and your spinning is just going to be slower. It's one of the reasons why I ended up getting the Magicraft Susie in the end. I have obviously had many wheels in the evolution of this podcast. You guys know that. And like the Matchless and the Sidekick and some of the other wheels that are available on the market, when you can get a wheel that has some of those higher ratios, that where the whirl, like this groove here, is quite a bit smaller than the other ones, so the flyer can turn and go through quite a number of revolutions for one drive wheel rotation, and so you don't have to treadle as quickly or as hard. Or if your default treadling speed is quite a bit slower, you don't have to be constantly reminding yourself that you need to treadle faster or treadle more. The other thing, and this was one of the things that I found about my Spinolution Mach 3, and I found this also with the Polywog when I had them. When you have those really big bobbins, they do cause a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight on there, and so depending on how the mechanism is and how they're set up and whatnot, you just end up with a lot of wobble, like I mentioned. But also that heaviness, you have to get sort of a certain speed going on the wheel to then be able to get enough twist in there to spin. So the thing that one of the things that I would like to remind people of is pretty much any modern wheel that's on the market will do the job. If you want higher ratios and you want to be able to spin lace weight and you want to spin really, 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 really fine yarn, there are tons of wheels on the market that will do that for you. If you know that the majority of your spinning is sort of going to be in the medium weight yarn range, it really comes down to personal preference and brand loyalty. Pretty much every wheel that's on the market, irregardless of whether you like the brand or you like the look of the wheel, is going to do the job. And it comes down to personal preference. Some people really love the classical looking wheels and they tend to gravitate more toward companies like Kromsky, Ashford. Other people like real minimalism, really super, super modern looking wheels, and they like the 3D printed aspects of some of the wheels, and they tend to navigate more towards like Schacht, Magicraft. They want, for those who kind of want, and like Lendrum tends to have that hyper modern look. And then there's people who sort of like something in between, and they navigate more toward, some of the Magicraft wheels that are on the market. And price is a huge consideration. If you're in a country where you have to pay huge customs fees, or you're importing something, or you don't necessarily have an opportunity to try it ahead of time, that's a consideration. Do you really want to spend $2,000 on a wheel that you're importing that you don't really know if it's the right fit for you? Or would you prefer to import a wheel that's sub $1,000 like the Lendrum, knowing that it's not going to have everything nailed and it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but you don't have double the amount of money invested? Does that make sense? So I'm going to leave this to chat for just a sec to chime in. And in terms of 3D printed bobbins, Acroworks is pretty much the company that's doing 3D printed bobbins for wheels. And if you've kind of picked out a specific wheel that you want, say the Kromsky Minstrel or the Schacht Matchless, or you really want a Magicraft wheel, go on the Acroworks website and see if that wheel is listed there. And if there are bobbins listed for the standard, jumbo, lace, because a lot of wheels now are producing different sized bobbins for different sizes of flyer mechanisms so that people can do more with one wheel. Right? So like the Lendrum, for example, there's the lace flyer, the fast flyer, the regular flyer, which is on my wheel right now, and there's the jumbo flyer. Same with my Magicraft. There's the jumbo, which is sort of the plying head or the overdrive head, the standard, and then there's a lace. So there's baby bobbins, lace bobbins, standard bobbins, and jumbo bobbins for just that wheel alone. And then for the Lendrum, there's this jumbo bobbins, regular bobbins, and lace bobbins. So if that's something that you want to think about, those are different things that you can search for on the Acroworks website. The Woolmakers wheels, like the Bliss, for example, Julia's just mentioning that if you're in Europe, they can be a great and incredibly affordable wheel. We have a dealer here in Vancouver that's just brought them in as well, out in Mission. So if you're local and you're willing to drive, Mady has those wheels in stock now. Yeah, okay, people are sort of throwing out all of their different wheels that they love. So people, love Kromsky, love my flat iron. So again, flat iron is a traditional style wheel. You need the footprint to be able to accommodate that. Love my Sonata, love my Minstrel, love my Symphony. Those are all Kromsky wheels. Love my Schacht iron, flat iron. When I was researching wheels, I found reading wheel-specific groups on RAV very helpful because it helped me understand the questions and issues that people were having with each wheel. Love my Magicraft Rose and Lendrum DT. Bliss by Woolmakers. Love the look of Kromsky, but they don't make any Saxony with a flyer on the right, so I couldn't get one. I have a Bumblebee and she's great, but only an 8-to-1 whirl, so that's a lot of work to get finer singles. Yeah, I think the reality is everybody loves their wheel the best. So they're going to tell you that their wheel is the best on the market and that it's their favorite because they love it the most. There is nothing wrong with that. But I would remind you, for those who are more experienced spinners, when you're talking to people who aren't as experienced as you can really sway their opinions one way or another by saying, my wheel is the best, you have to get my wheel. Most modern wheels on the market will do the job. It might not be your favorite wheel. It might not be the brand that you like the best, because there is a lot of brand loyalty. Let's face it. People are either pro one company or pro another company, and it's really hard to sway them. I find that a more useful way of talking about some of this stuff is to try to figure out what it is that somebody's looking for. Do you want a really great all-round wheel, or do you want a fast wheel? Do you want a wheel that's for textured spinning mainly, or do you want to do all the things? If you want to do all the things, Lendrum is the wheel in terms of price and getting all the bits and pieces. But there's other wheels out there that do all the things as well. However, if they don't come with the wheel itself, yes, the flat iron, the matchless, the sidekick are all amazing wheels. They're fantastic. I've spun on all of them. I think they're amazing. They're wonderful. Schacht is a great company. But everything that you add to that wheel is added cost. So you get the standard stuff, but then if you want some of those extra things, all the extra whorls and ratios, the jumbo flyer, all that stuff costs money. So if that is a factor for you and the financial part of it is important to you, and you need to be conscious of that, and money is an object, it isn't just a free-for-all, then you need to think about that, because like the Lendrum DT, for example, all of that's included. The only thing that's not included is the lace flyer. So you get the fast flyer, but you don't get the lace flyer. But Gord very rarely makes them anyways, so it's not really a big deal. So it's just thinking about that stuff, and when you're talking to new spinners, or spinners that are looking for their second wheel, because the reality is most of us are not going to have one wheel for our whole life. Speaking more in terms of ideas and things that they maybe want to think about that they haven't thought about, rather than just, this is the only one and this is what you have to get. Because maybe your favorite wheel and your best wheel is their worst wheel, and they leave spinning because of it. So it's just a bit of devil's advocate, because I was very much told what wheel I should get, and I really struggled for a long time because of it. Trying out wheels is a great idea, and I think we all probably have been told to try out as many wheels as we possibly can. A lot of people don't have access to festivals and don't have access to this stuff. They don't have a local shop. They don't have access to festivals. And that's where I think it's really important to try to give people as many different things to think about. And remember that most of the modern spinning wheels on the market are more than adequate. You're gonna be fine. Oh yeah, the Spinalician worker bees. The bees are really great. The worker bee, and then there's the king bee, the queen bee. They're great wheels. Availability is absolutely a factor. I like the matchless, but for the pounds over here, because yeah, absolutely. So Eve is saying she's in the UK, and just to import it, and the money that would cost because of the British pound is just unbelievable. Same with the Lendrum. It would be really interesting, Eve, if, like, just purely for curiosity, to have the Lendrum shipped by a company or to have it shipped by a friend. I wonder about some. I sometimes wonder about some of that stuff, like with the VAT and everything, how that would affect you guys. All right. Guild's another option for trying wheels, except mine, who all seem to have spin. So it's funny, actually, Eve, that you would say that they all spin on Ashfords. My guild is the same way, and Katrina and Diana would say that. Like, there's a couple of Ashford dealers in our guild, and everybody got the same wheel about 10 years ago, and they all spin on Ashfords. Okay, you guys are going to keep talking, and I'm going to move around the cameras, okay? So let me do that. Okay, what we're going to talk about is spinning thinner and thicker. So here on my Lendrum, I am using my standard flyer, okay? And these are big, slow ratios. So on this is my fast flyer. I do not have a lace flyer for the Lendrum, okay? So this one is the one that I use exclusively. I literally had to, you guys are gonna laugh. Oh, this one Mike got me for my birthday. Isn't that fun? I got a Versa. I always have my Blaze on, but my Blaze died. So he very kindly, we don't do any birthday gifts for each other. And I had bought him a very romantic and sexy box jump. For those of you who do CrossFit, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyways, we had said no gifts, but because of all the things that have been going on recently, we decided to get something for each other this year, and he got me a Versa, so it was just really, really lovely. Anyhow, I had to go and find this. I actually didn't know where it was. I was getting a bit worried. This is all that I use, okay? So this is 12 to 1, 15 to 1, and 17 to 1. And actually, for those who are curious, let's see if I can show you on here. I might not be able to. I actually write on the back of my whorls. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, but I write on the back of my whorls what ratios they are. So I've written that on the back here, and actually you can probably see that piece of tape there. And this is 10 to 1, 10 to 1, 8 to 1, and 6 to 1. So this up here is 6 to 1. It's very slow, and I'll treadle a little bit, and you can see what it looks like and how slow it is. And I am not a fast treadler, okay? I am probably, so it's quite funny. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, so you guys can laugh at me a little bit. I just can't take things that seriously when it comes to this stuff, because if we don't have joy in doing our making, then really what do we have, right? You can put me and Katrina next to each other, okay? So you can put Katrina right here, and I'll be sitting right here, and we'll be like at a guild spin-in, or we'll be at each other's houses or whatever, and she is spinning at Mach 600, and I'm like, that's literally how fast I spin. And her and I laugh about it. All right, so this is a braid of Polworth, I think it's Polworth silk. Yeah, it is, 85.15, that I purchased from my friend Marianne of Smith & You. She's located up in Kamloops, British Columbia. smithandyou.com. And I really need I don't know what the right word is. I just need a kind spin right now. I don't know how else to put it. I need something that's just for me and is not for content and not for anything else other than just being for fun and for spinning. And so I pulled this out, and I'm just going to braid a little bit of it. And it's just really lovely. It's got some, she's just poured the dye on. There's no rhyme or reason really, although it does go purple, green, brown, yellow, and then back again. But she sort of poured the dye on. There's some white left in there. You guys know how much I love that. And my plan with this was just to spin randomly. So my plan was just to unbraid it a little bit, pull some of the fiber off. This when I talk about mindless spinning, this is exactly what I do. And then I have my little thing of fiber, and I just pre-draft a little bit. And that's sort of what I do. And then this is what we're going to, so this is slow, right? This is not a very fast ratio. And you will find, I'm just going to move the wheel, I'm just going to move the camera back again, because then you guys can actually see me spinning, because like, who cares about the wheel? It's all about me. I'm going to spin in the Z direction. So you see how I can spin quite thin, but like it's slow. Because then when you let that onto the wheel, like that's really low twist. That's barely holding together. But if you spin your singles like that, and then you tighten it up when you ply, Look at how amazing that is. Like, that is really cool yarn. And I'm sorry that I can't zoom in a little bit more. It's just the sort of the nature of the beast with the webcam. I will bring it closer though, just a little bit closer for you. So I'll just spin a little bit more. So you really have to like work hard to get that twist in there. And this is going to take like a really long time to spin. Right? So, but I can spin thin. And if I want to thicken it up, I'm going to bring my forward hand, my drafting hand, into my fiber supply a bit more. And when I draw back, you automatically make a thicker yarn. See how I go further in, draw back, and it just drafts a thicker yarn? So I can do that, but if I give it a slight untwist, it's barely twist locked. So even with, you know, even with the thicker single, you're still not really putting that much twist in, because the reality is 6:1 is a slow ratio. This is slow making, slow cloth, slow yarn. And I think for newer spinners, they maybe don't realize sometimes how under twisted their yarns actually are. If I go to 10:1 and I keep my treadling the same, my hands speed up ever so slightly because I can feel that twist building up ahead of my hand. But again, it's not that much. Like, have a look at this. That's still not a particularly high twist yarn, you know? And then you go to tighten that up when you ply it. I don't know, you'd need a lot of ply twist. So it can be done, but it takes a lot of work and it's a lot more treadling. And I find sometimes when you're spinning, so when the wheel is moving that slowly, it can be really, really hard to keep yourself consistent. Because I think the reality is we sort of start to go back to sort of a mindless way of spinning where we aren't quite as aware, maybe, of our technique and how we're spinning. Like, as it is, you can see how as I'm talking, like I'm getting further and further and further back this way, right? And it's because I'm not really paying that much attention and my yarn isn't really that consistent. It maybe looks consistent just because of the, but it's not consistent for me. And it's certainly not high twist. So it's nice to have access to those higher ratios. It is not absolutely imperative, because if I sit here and allow the twist to build up, I can get a higher twist yarn. This is way closer to what I'm looking for. But that took a lot of work, and that was about 10 inches of yarn in a probably was going to be a 600 yard skein, right? Actually, I'm going to save that. This is just exactly what I want to spin. So let's save that. Because what I'll do when I'm ready to now I'm like kicking equipment around. When I'm ready to actually like commit to this project and actually start, I will I'll change the ratios around. I'll put this back on and we'll spin for real. Look at that. That's lovely. I wonder if it'll show up actually under here. How cool is that? Let's see if it'll focus. I don't know if it'll focus because it's pretty close for the web. It's pretty close for the webcam. Oh, there we go. Maybe. Well, it's trying. That's a nice yarn. That's a really nice yarn. So having access to all those different ratios is definitely nice to have. And most modern wheels will do that for you. And you will have anything from a jumbo, access to a jumbo flyer that you can use make a textured yarn and a thicker yarn. And then you can also do fine. And lace yarns and medium yarns and all the things. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way and then we're going to go to the next thing. So I wanted to say thank you to those who I was 2 weeks ago I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was working on some stuff for the Maker Mornings that's coming up this weekend. And I just randomly posted in the Slack channel, if you're around, here's the link to the live stream. If you're free, can you hop in and give me some feedback? Anyways, Kelly was around, Eve was around, Marla was around, Tamara was around. I'm probably forgetting people. I just thank you for helping. That was really, really helpful. So I appreciate you guys giving me a hand to change some of this setup. And it may not be permanent, and like today I've turned off having the chat cycling right here because we don't need it for the live stream, but thank you to those who helped. All right. You guys are still talking about wheels, so I'm going to let you guys continue on with that chat because you're talking about balancing wheels, so that's really great that you're helping out each other. Yeah, thank you, Kelly, because you were like, you and Eileen and a couple other people were really helpful, so thank you. Okay, let me grab my Susie, and then we are going to have a look at this. So I don't normally use my Lendrum Lazy Kate to ply off of, but it's what I have access to. And the bobbins for the Magicraft are actually too big to put 3 on. They hit each other because the base of the bobbin just doesn't, they don't fit. So for this it works because I've only got the one bobbin, but just so you know, I don't tend to use this one. I don't use my Magicraft Lazy Kate as much either. The one that I actually like the best is my arched Kromsky Lazy Kate that I had from when I had my menstrual. It's still my favorite Lazy Kate to date, and all of the bobbins fit on it. I'm just going to thread my flyer. So this is the Magicraft Susie Pro. I bought this secondhand, and I had budgeted to buy one brand new, and then I was actually contacted by somebody who was interested in selling hers, and so I was able to get it, and that was a couple years ago now. I have put so many miles on this wheel, I don't even want to think about it. It's just been unbelievable, this wheel for me. I got rid of all of my other wheels as a result, and yeah, that's this wheel. All right, my singles were spun in the Z direction, so they were spun going this way, and I'm going to ply going this way. This was a gradient. It actually is the photo is the thumbnail for this episode. So it was this gorgeous gradient, and unfortunately Fiber Club for Katrina is ending. This is the last month. She's no longer going to be doing Fiber Club. She's got some other stuff that she is working on. But I wanted to just share with you really quickly how I was going to ply this, and then hopefully come our Maker Morning this weekend, I will have it finished. We will see though, because I have some appointments to go to with my dad tomorrow. I may not be home at all. So I am on the fastest ratio that I have access to on this wheel, which is 27:1. It may end up being a bit too high for chain plying, but we will see. My uptake is sort of moderate, and I'm going to chain ply this. So this was a woolen spun prep. sorry, this was a woolen prep. It was Ness and Nessa fiber, and they went through the rainbow. So it started with the pink and it went to sort of an orangey color. And there's green and blue. And then it finished at this purple color. There was a lot of Kemp in it this month. And I wasn't really sure how this was going to chain ply. So it's coming off of the table behind me. And then I'm making these loops. It's hard to talk while I'm doing this, but I loop it through. So I use a looped leader on my bobbins. Do I have a bobbin nearby? I do. So this is one of my bobbins here. And let's say I have to stop because I need to talk about something or I need to share something. What I do is I take the loop here and I just funnel it as close as I can to the orifice of my wheel, and I hook this onto something just to keep the loop intact. So it's just hanging there on my wheel, and I kind of just let the twist sit there, and I try not to touch it. But this is one of my bobbins, and this is some old nylon thread that I had, so it's not gonna break very easily. And what I do is I put on these big long leaders like this. I got that trick from Beth Smith years ago for when you're plying, because this is a perfect situation where you've got this big long chain going, and when you do your final loop and you lift it up through your final loop, the final part of the singles, you will come up to the end of your loop here. And so then you know you're done, but you're not reaching behind you and trying to manage your bobbins back here. You're working right here in your lap. So put on really, really long leaders. I put about probably 3 feet on mine. It's one length of my arm from my hand to my shoulder. And then I loop, it's looped. So then when I go to start, I literally just reach through the loop. I reach through the loop and I pull up the first single and create my first loop from this loop. Talking to two cameras is really difficult. I'm sorry. But basically I just pull that first singles through that loop and that starts me off. So if you use a looped leader, that's kind of done for you in terms of the starting. So then I'm going to pull this off my wheel and I'll show you what I mean. So let's pretend that this is my loop on my leader. I just pull the first part of it through and make the first loop, and then I'm off to the races. I got to take the tension off of this. It's pulling too much. Couldn't figure out why I couldn't get going really nicely, and it's because it's just too much tension back there. And sometimes that happens. Some people swear by tensioned lazy Kates. I kind of love them and I kind of hate them. It just sort of depends. You guys probably don't really care about seeing the wheel. You want to see me. So I'll just move the camera. And then you guys can ask questions. Do the spinning police complain about that one? So you don't have to use a knot. No, you don't need a knot. Just long leaders. Now, the thing with chain ply that I find when I'm teaching people is that the twist really can build up if you're not careful. You can get these really, really over twisted yarns. So just watch how much you're adding. As you pull the loops through, just be aware of your angle of twist and how much the twist is building up. Because if it's taking you a really super long time to get your loops pulled up through your yarn, just remember that that's going to cause a huge buildup of twist. And then you end up with these really ropey, coarse yarns. And this is already going to be quite a coarse yarn because of the Welsh in it. So I'm okay with that because I know that. This will probably end up being yarn that's used for like a wall hanging or some sort of household item like pillows that need to be hard wearing, but doesn't matter if they're soft or not. And if I wanted it to be softer, I would maybe go down to a lower ratio so that I had a softer angle of twist. But I also want the yarn to look cohesive, and I want it to look like it's really spun together tightly and nicely. So I don't want to go down too much to too low of a twist angle, because otherwise it's not going to look like it's adequately plied. So you sort of have to find that balance. Like I've sort of accepted that this yarn is going to be coarser. It's going to be a little bit more like you know, a heavy duty toothy yarn. And I'm okay with that because I like making lots and lots of different types of yarns. They don't all have to be soft. If they're all soft and they're all appropriate for next to the skin for a baby, then we can't make all these different things. Now the other thing that I tend to do is I keep my loops as even as possible. Some people will change the length of their loops for color management, but I don't tend to do that. I prefer a consistent yarn over a yarn that I'm constantly changing the lengths of the loops, because if I change the lengths of the loops, it changes my spinning and it changes my treadling, because you're speeding up and slowing down because your eyes are trying to manage how the colors are laying. And so I tend to keep, to me it's more important to have a consistent yarn with a consistent angle of twist throughout the whole yarn than it is to have a color match up or not match up. Again, that's just my preference. You guys are talking about spinning police. You're so funny. Let me just get this untangled. Talk about a big tangle. Look at all that Kemp. Just pulled that off. The nice thing about Kemp, I never worry about Kemp. Some people get very, very wound up about Kemp. Kemp are those like wiry guard hairs that get into the fiber sometimes when it's prepped. The thing about Kemp is that it will fall out. And when it does, over time, as you work with it, you'll end up with this great yarn at the end. But people get very upset when there's a lot of Kemp. But it'll come out. You can't worry about it too much. So it makes a slightly toothier yarn. Who cares? Not every yarn can be next to the skin soft. I'm feeling very philosophical these days. So you guys are talking about spinning police. If someone can't explain the reason behind a spinning rule, I just ignore it. Yes. Can't care about the end of a skein that much. It's going to become a tie and get cut off anyway. Absolutely. That's how I feel. You know, the beginning and end of a skein, that first and last yard, you're not probably going to use it. So don't get too wound up about it. How you attach your yarns, how you start stuff, how you finish it. If you don't like the first and last couple of yards of your yarns, just get rid of it. Cut it off. So I had a break, and that's okay. So I've got this piece here, and I've got the other end of it here. Hope you guys can see that. So I'm going to take this end, and I'm going to tuck it in, and then we're going to say goodbye. I'm going to tuck it in up here, in between my singles that were up here. I'm going to give it a little bit of twist before I go on. So you see how it hides it there? And I'm going to come draft down. I'm going to smooth down so that I've still got a loop, but maybe not as big as my other ones. And then I'm going to pull through. And I'm just going to keep going. That's how you fix breaks in chain ply. No knots. No multiple loops. All right. think that's everything for today. This month's giveaway is sponsored by Disdero Ranch. I will be giving away those hand-carded Rolags that she made in July's show at the end of the month. So please hop into the June episode thread, and that will also be July's episode thread because we only have one show in July. And let us know what your favorite colorway of all time is, whether it's on yarn or fiber, it doesn't matter. Favorite colorway of all time. Some people have linked to it. Some people have shared photos of it, which is just awesome. Thank you so much. And I will draw somebody's name from that thread in Ravelry in July for that show when we're back in episode 121. If you were catching up with shows from the last couple of episodes and you won something and you haven't gotten in touch with me, please do. And I will mail everything out when we get back from our travels at the end of July. In July, I will draw from the introductions thread on Ravelry for the calendar giveaway. So if you would like to win a calendar, you can go and introduce yourself. Let us know as a community who you are and where you live, if you feel like sharing that, what you like to spin. And if you're new to the Slack channel, be sure to pop in, and we always ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're working on. So you can always do that. All right, so I've got my loop, but my single broke. So I'm going to make a loop with my single. And just like when I start at the beginning of the bobbin, I am going to start it the same way. I'm going to pull this through. I'm going to add a little bit of twist. So because this is a woolen prep, and it was sort of semi-woolen spun, I don't like chain-plying woolen yarns. It's like my least favorite thing to do, and I avoid it at all costs. But there was just no other way to manage this spin because I really wanted to keep the colors together. So that is why I chain-plied. So it's not going to be the smooth, really beautiful, worsted spun, blah, blah, blah chain ply. But I think instead it'll be textured and a little bit more interesting. So I am embracing it. If you would like to stay up to date on news and happenings around woolen spinning, you can subscribe to the newsletter. It comes out once a month on the 14th of every month. And the subscription for that is free for everybody. Everybody can receive it. Just gives you an idea of kind of what's going on in the community. And that is happening. You can subscribe to that at wellforpearls.com. I have another break. So I'm going to fix it and then I will let you guys go. So Megan was saying she almost always spins woolen, and so she's never enjoyed chain plying. That's why. It is not my favorite thing to do. I don't really enjoy chain plying anyways. It's not my favorite thing to do in general. I much prefer a traditional 3-ply or a traditional 4-ply or a 2-ply. Those are definitely my favorite yarns, but everybody's different. Everybody likes what they like and has their own stuff that they enjoy spinning. Say thank you to Nora for her patience. I'm so impressed. Thanks, Becca. I will. She's pretty tired. We've had a lot of late nights this last week and a lot of excitement. So I think in some ways she was kind of looking forward to the downtime and the quiet. So I am going to go be with her and take her to school. We've got James's last day is tomorrow, so we're taking presents in for his teachers. And until next time, happy spinning. Thank you for the wishes for the week, whatever it may be. I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers. Hopefully, I could spin forever. I could just sit there and do that forever. It's so hard to stop. So thank you to everybody. Oh, I was wondering, because Thornton is a last name, and that's actually how my dad ended up getting it as a first name, was because they didn't want to lose the name in the family. And so his mother, who is Sarah Thornton, his mom's mom, who is Sarah Thornton, gave Dad Thornton as a first name. So you still threw me off when I saw it in the chat, because obviously we're praying for Dad very much right now. So if you guys could do the same, we would appreciate it. And until, oh no way, you were Sarah Thornton too? That's crazy. So she was Sarah, which is why Nora is Norah. We were going to name her Sarah, Sarah, but at the last minute we switched it to Nora. So that is so funny. Small world. Stuff like this has been happening all, like, throughout the last week. It's been like there's been so many things like this that have been happening, and these weird, like, coincidences and whatnot. So I feel like the universe is reaching out and giving us a big hug. So anyhow, yeah, thank you for the well wishes for our family. I will keep you posted. When I am ready to share, I will share. I just would like to have a little bit more information before I do that. And I think that's it. We're looking at Hauser yarn in the How I Spin content this morning. I posted a brand new poll for you guys to answer. If you're a patron of the community, please take the time to do that. It really helps me with numbers. And until next time, happy spinning and have an amazing, amazing month. And to those who are able to attend the Maker Morning on Saturday morning, I will see you bright and early. So until then, happy spinning. Bye, everyone.